What is unethical as duck, but is extremely common practice in the business world? Laying someone off as they turn about 55 or so. Want to talk unethical discrimination? Try getting hired at 50 plus. Messing with employees' time cards and shorting them hours they worked. An alarming amount of bosses I have worked for didn't see anything wrong with this. Only when the Dept of Labor came in and told them it was illegal did they change. And no. Even if you suspect the employee stole from you, you still can't dock their pay to cover for the loss. You can fire them and pursue small claims, but you cannot duck with their time card. The last company I was at would do forced overtime with no notice and would occasionally do 7 days a week 12-hour days. In my area there's a law that you can't force 7 days in a week, and at morning meetings they flat out would tell you that they will pay the fine for breaking that law if needed, and that if you don't make it in, they will let you go. Companies, especially large ones, that only give percentage raises for promotions based on your current salary and not what the position is actually supposed to be paid. Earning bonuses and perks based on numbers instead of quality of work. Right out of college I was the third shift supervisor for a dog food plant. Every once in a while a shift would run a peak efficiency and put out a massive amount of packaging. If your shift managed to break the record for a particular line, the shift and team leaders would get a small bonus and recognition. I come in one night for my shift and second shift was really cranking it out. They broke a record. Turns out that in an attempt to break the record, they somehow missed that the date stamping machine was not accurate. Everything that they packed was now dated incorrectly and could not go out. My shift spent the entire night unboxing everything from the previous shift and dumping it one can at a time into wheelbarrows so it could be repackaged later. Second shift still got credit for the record, and my shift got dinged for no output for an entire shift. Insurance company not paying the full coverage amount right away. Example with round numbers, you own a house with a $100,000 insurance policy. The house burns down. Insurance company offers you $50,000 right away if you sign away any claim for more money. If you want the full $100,000 then you will have to wait months or years. You might have to get a lawyer and sue. In the meantime, you have no place to live, and you can't start the healing process of planning to rebuild. Non-compete clauses in hiring contracts. This makes it so the company can offer a person lower raises in the future, knowing that they cannot work for another company doing what they are good at if they quit. These are almost all garbage clauses BTW. It's very rare that a company will try legal means to stop you, and even rarer for them to succeed. It's mostly an intimidation tactic for employee retention and to keep wages lower. Trumping up a reason to fire someone so you can contest their unemployment later. My friend got ducked out of his $30,000 commission on a sale because the higher ups didn't want to give it to him, so they fired him for poor performance. In the US medical industry, pricing medicine at exorbitant rates when there are no competitors and the alternative is either a shorter life expectancy or death. As a type 1 diabetic, I have developed a strong dislike of Lilly for their actions with Humalog, of which is now worth twice as much as gold by weight, with a price increase from $25 million to $280 per ml over 20 years. Despite the medicine being exactly the same and artificially mass-produced by Lilly from their own patented modified pancreatic cells. Intern slaves. Zero compensation. No mentorship. Just free work with a promise of a possibility of getting hired and when you're done. In a perfect world, they are being actively mentored, and that in my opinion could possibly justify not paying them. But if they are doing work and actively furthering their career, and you value them, why not pay them at least minimum wage? People say millennials are spoiled and lazy and live with their parents. But what money do they have to move out? They need an internship to get a job to get money to move out. But if the internship isn't paying, then that causes a delay. And no, the solution isn't to force kids to do free internships. Work a part-time job or two. while balancing their studies and their social life and other activities and the rest of their life. Make people do the work of more than one person with enough pay to support half of a person. Pretty much all part-time retail positions. Those companies thrive on overworking people and underpaying them. I just left my first retail job a couple weeks ago. I am 27. Had always heard people complain about retail. Was desperate for a change, so I thought I would try it. So terrible. In my interview they insisted it was a full-time position. Once I finished paid training, I was being scheduled between 10 and 15 hours a week. I brought this up to the owner many times, telling her I can't pay rent with these kinds of hours. So she put me on call for 4 days a week, preventing me from picking up a second gig. After 2 weeks of that, she took me off the schedule completely and I haven't heard from the company since. The most passive-aggressive thing ever. Insurance companies denying a claim the first time it shows up in their system just to see if they can get away with not paying it. When my house was destroyed in a hurricane, the insurance companies sent reps down to do recon on the neighborhood. They weren't there to see if everything was destroyed or not, because everything was clearly ducked. They were there to see who came back immediately. You see, they figured if you came back right away, you probably didn't have another place to stay, and really needed to get the place fixed and livable immediately, and would fight to do so. If you took a while to get back, they assumed you A, had someplace else to stay, or B, weren't invested enough to get back as soon as the area reopened. If you were in those categories, they denied all claims for damage over and over until you gave up or got lawyers involved. Not allowing your employees to take a lunch break, then punishing them for not taking a lunch break. Wait. What? Yep. I work for a big retail cooperation, like the Bigest. Yeah, that one. And if you work 6+ hours you must take a lunch break. If your supervisor doesn't give you one and you stay longer than 6 hours, you either have to stay after your shift off the clock for 30 minutes and take it or get written up. Throwing people under the bus for your own personal gain. It tends to work for a short time or while. But people do tend to finally notice if you're actually a mercenary hunt and decide they don't want to deal with you. Not allowing employees to work more than 35 hours a week so you don't have to offer healthcare and benefit packages. The culture of don't talk about how much you're being paid. In reality, companies often pay some employees way less than others, simply because they don't know that their position is worth more. If we started sharing our salaries with our co-workers, managers would be forced to pay equal wages to equal positions. But managers have created a culture where it's unacceptable to talk about how much you get paid, so that employees aren't aware what people around them are getting paid. Asking salaried employees to work more than their normal 40-hour schedule and not during an emergency situation. Essentially making someone work OT for planned work without increasing their pay or giving them the time back. My manager worked a month solid because we were short-staffed. I told him to take some days off but he refused, saying we don't have the people. I can't. It really frustrated me because the guy is super cool and he didn't deserve that at all. But he makes salary, so you better believe he didn't get any extra pay. Convenience charges. These especially anger me. BC more than half the time it is for something being done electronically. Convenience fee? You mean me using my own printer and paper is something I need to pay you for? BC, it's so convenient. Also baggage fees. You're talking about Ticketmaster. £2.50 convenience fee to print these tickets off yourself rather than get them in the post. £1.50 for e-ticket where you don't need to print anything. Just let them scan your phone screen. I'll always avoid Ticketmaster if I have the choice. Insurance companies. In my short time working at a healthcare one, I was disgusted at the excuses people would make just to not cover someone. I couldn't handle it after 2 weeks because it would make me physically ill because of those hunts. Selecting a person you're attracted to and giving them preferential treatment. A friend of mine got a serious boost in her early career by being an attractive 20-something around a male boss going through a divorce. She never did anything. But she took the promotion and the $10,000 raise. Stuck around for just over a year. And then leveraged that position to get a management job herself at another company. Refusing to hire young women based on the possibility that they might get pregnant and go on maternity leave. It's actually an illegal form of discrimination. But many companies do it. One of my friends was asked if she planned to have more children in a job interview. Even though she'd already had her tubes tied. It was highly implied that she wouldn't get the job if she said yes. And of course, guys are never asked this question because no one even expects them to take paternity leave. This sucks all around for everyone. And meaningless rant, the baby boomer generation gets mad at us for not having kids until we're 35, or in some cases ever. But then refuse to hire young people because they might get pregnant. So there's that. Finding ways to fire pregnant employees or employees W young children as they tend to call in sick or have emergency days used for their children. As a woman graduating med school this year, it is supposed to be illegal for residences on the interview trail to inquire into my relationship status or current future family plans. Residences may not want to take on a resident who will want to take maternity leave at some point. Regardless, I was asked about my marriage and future family plans at almost every interview. We're in such a desperate position as well. Interviewing. That it's not like we're going to call them out on it either. It's unfortunate. Edit, I should have said prohibited instead of illegal. As it is against ACGME standards but not illegal in the judicial sense. My bad. Paying a wage that is not enough to live on but still demanding most of their time in a week. If being forced to pay your employees a livable wage kills capitalism, then it's time for capitalism to die. It's really only a matter of time now. Finding someone who is a good fit for the company culture. My wife is in HR. And she confesses this is the socially acceptable way to say a company is blatantly profiling potential candidates based on gender, race, age, religion. Implying that hard work, dedication and being a team player will get you raises and promotion. But never delivering on those implied promises. Wage theft. Not paying people for the time worked. Altering time cards. All sorts of variations. It is estimated that wage theft keeps $40 minus $60 billion out of the hands of wage earners every year in the United States alone. It is illegal. And happens most commonly to the poorest Americans. It is a primary example of the capital holding class exploiting the labor class to further reinforce their own wealth. Planned obsolescence. Basically, making products with the intention that they break so consumers buy more or pay shed loads to get stuff fixed. Looking at you Apple with your stupid glass panel that can't be replaced without rebuilding the whole ducking phone. The idea that you are part of the family at work. Yes. You need to play along with that to maintain good stature. But they seriously don't give a duck about you and you can't use the family card when you're getting fired or otherwise. Another way to put it I guess is that there is implied loyalty on behalf of the employee to the company but there is absolutely no loyalty consideration when it comes from the company to the employee. 24 years of good service? One duck up? See you later fud. Pretty much the gamut has been run in corporate America and unless it hits TV screens it won't matter. Companies are a multi-tiered entity that cannot go to jail. And whose punishments only amount to fractions of a percent as to what potential profits could yield. Worst part is most are designed to where their operating directives necessitate its survival via profits. Meaning morality is a hindrance to longevity statistically. Throw in lobbying upon success and you've got yourself another fold in the dystopian corporate controlled America. Convincing people to invest in a particular stock. Or to buy a particular product because of kickbacks from the manufacturer. Doctors do this with medications from pharmaceutical companies that pay them off. People who work in stocks will do this. Offering a free trial period for some premium service. But the person receiving the free trial has to call to cancel it. Or it automatically starts getting charged to them. Similarly, advertising your promotional cost for the first 3 months, and only mentioning in the fine print that the price gets jacked up after that. Especially when you either outright lie when people ask you what the regular price is, or wording your response so that it sounds like the promo price is the permanent price. But you had a little wiggle room in there in case they were recording the call. Firing people just because you flat out don't like them regardless of how hard they work or how good they are at their job. It's perfectly legal in some areas. Refusing to give people full-time work, max 35 hours a week, and then changing their schedule pretty much every week so they can't get a second job. I had a roommate in college who worked for a telemarketing company. Rather than release her schedule a month early, or even weekly, they made her show up daily to check the schedule. Apparently they couldn't just call or email it to her. This was a rinky-dink town, with a population that tripled when school was in session. They knew these kids didn't have other options and exploited the hell out of them. She eventually quit when it was too difficult to ride her bike there in the snow. Having worked in manufacturing to support consumerism for many companies over 30 years, I would say telling different factories within the organization that the plant or factory must save money at all costs. We must cut staff. We are not competitive. But there is the annual trade show in Vegas, with themed parties, extravagant spending, wild expense reports, and secret bonuses. Cutting your scheduled hours, then calling you in to work outside of those scheduled hours only to not pay you for that work. Essentially cutting your hours and conning you into volunteering without outright saying it. I worked at a fast food place as a teenager that did that. Sometimes only giving me 4 to 8 hours a week, then calling me in for late shifts. None of the unscheduled hours they called me in for showed up on my paycheck. I've talked to people that worked at their other location in my town and it was the exact same for them. 2. Double booking or lying to you about how long someone will take to get to you. I used to work in a stripprogram agency office many years ago, college. My boss would constantly send girls out with 3 bookings for 7 PM. Then lie to the last booking about why she was an hour and a half late. If you want hired entertainers workmen to turn up on time, tell them you will be leaving half an hour after the booking time. Works like a charm. I was in CEO for a private company owned by this family. The matriarch was a rich to work for. I constantly clashed with her over some of her whims. We had this office laborer who was mentally challenged. He tried to do a good job and he worked hard. The itch let it be known she didn't like him and wanted him gone. We did have a policy and procedures manual that pretty much laid out the reasons someone could be fired. Itch told several staff members that if someone found just cause to fire him, they got a $250 gift card to Ruth's Chris. It only took a few weeks. They nailed him on something petty. Even denied him unemployment. Coming up with reasons for termination to deny unemployment is pretty common. Working your employees to the bone. And being condescending when they complain to make them feel bad so they'll shut up and work harder. Saving you labor costs. We don't have enough people to get this done today. This is a one-man job. You should be able to do it in 4 hours. The 2 of you should have it done in 2. It's not hard. Exploiting vulnerable people. It's common for big energy companies to offer low tariffs for customers who shop around and jack the price up for loyal customers. They're taking advantage of people who forget or don't know how to switch to a cheaper tariff. It's only recently that the government in the UK stated that these companies are routinely overcharging people.